This is going to be our second tutorial in 2019 C++ tutorial series, and we are going to start writing our first program in C++. If you have gone through tutorial 1, you should be able to set up Eclipse for C++ and also install C++ compiler, which is MinGW compiler, and also configure it to work with Eclipse. If you have any challenge with any of these, let me know. Also remember to subscribe by clicking on the subscribe button below this video now, so that when I make new lessons, you get to be notified immediately and you'll be able to follow these tutorials as I make them. So we are going to be looking at two things today: Cout and Cin, right? So now I'm going to take out this because we are going to build this triangle, square, and rhombus or something. So I'm going to close it and I'm going to actually start a new program. I'm going to start a new program. So let me close all files and then we start a new project. So I'm going to just close this project. So what you are going to do is to click on file. Now this process is very important because if you miss it, it could actually be frustrating. So never come here, don't come here. You'll need to say, let me also close the console so that we'll know we start from the scratch. So you can go to workspaces and go to perspective and choose perspective, and you can say debug, or you can say reset perspectives, and it resets. All right. So when you reset perspective, again you go to Windows, you go to perspective, and you say reset. So it comes to this place, and you go to File, New, and you say Project, and you go to C++ Project, and you go to Next, and you give it a name, our second tutorial. So go down to Makefile project and choose Hello World Makefile project. Choose under toolchain, choose MinGW GCC and go nice. And then maybe leave everything the way it is and just go nice and just say finish. So at this point, there is one or two things I would like to let you know. So after now, just maybe to create a little more space, I'm going to delete a few things from here. So I'm going to also call this one Cout and Cin. Now this place that is marked in green, they are comments, as you know. We are going to be talking about comments a little more later. So comments are not actually part of your program. So comments contain some things you want to write to add to your program, just to explain your program. The compiler actually ignores comments completely. So the first part of the program, they are called preprocessor directives. So they are like files that need to be added to your program for it to work. If you look at the folder that we are working with, this project called second tutorial, if you drop down, you could see that there are some files in includes. So these are header files or files that are needed for your program to work. And you can see makefile as well. So this is our program, CPP, this. So you can see it tells you the header files there and also the function there. All right, so the first thing you want to do is to add string. So just say hash include and just say string. Then go ahead to add another header file, include iostream, and that is fine. And finally, add using namespace std. So this you should actually know. So because we are going to be using them at a later time. So here you have exit success, change it to 0. Alright, so because we have int main, meaning that the main is the first function in your program. All C++ program must contain a main function. So I'm going to go ahead to run it. To run your program, just go to run and just say run as and choose local C++ application, and you wait for a few seconds. So it says launch failed, binary not found. So what you are going to do is to go to project, or first go to file and just say save all, and then go to project and say build project. So you can see that it built. So one thing you want to observe here is that we have second tutorial.exe and you have second tutorial.o. If you look at the name of the file, is second tutorial.cpp. So you have three files that we are working with. The first one is second tutorial.cpp, contains the high-level language or your source file. Second tutorial.o is an intermediate representation, more like the object code. That is, this O stands for object. And second tutorial.exe stands for the executable file. So let's go ahead to execute it. We simply click on run and say run as, or simply right click and say run as local C++ application, and you can see that it displays something in the console. So let's go ahead to build what I say we are going to build. So what we are learning today is C out and C in. So let's start by drawing a triangle. So simply say C out and then go ahead to say, so let's say space, and we want to use the hash key and more space, and we'll go to end line. End line. ENDL means end line. So I'm going to copy it and paste it several times. All right, so I want to build this triangle so that you see exactly how it works. So the next line is going to be this, and then this. So here we have this, and here we have. So what you need to know about this is that this is actually how the C++ program executes. It executes line by line. So here I'm going to simply so I guess it's not symmetrical, so I'm going to just complete the hash key by adding it here. All right. So I'm going to run this, now let's see what happens. So I'm going to run as local C++ application, and you can see that everything works and it displays a triangle. So let's go ahead to display a square. So let's start with so I'm putting it right in the same line so that you also understand that everything executes one line after another. So one thing you need to know about C++ is that it is fairly easy to follow. Yeah. So the thing is that you need to be consistent. If you subscribe by clicking on the subscribe button below this video, then you get notified anytime I make new lessons. So I'm going to run it again by clicking on run and say run as local C++ application, and everything goes fine and it displays the square. And finally, I'd like to then display a rhombus. I think that is what it is called. So let's get a hash key here. Okay, so one thing you can observe now is that everything is enclosed in quotes, right? Good. So in the halfway point, let's just put this, and then in the next line, I'm taking out this. Okay, let's just use a different tone. Let's add this, and then in the last line, we add the last one. All right. So feel free to just go ahead to. So in the second line, and here we have the third line. So I'm going to run it so that we see how it looks like. So just run at C++ local application, and we have it displayed. So one thing you want to know about this is we are using Cout. Cout displays something to the output. So Cout is an object that is part of this IOStream. IOStream is a library like modules that help you get codes or objects or functions to use in your program. Now, what is endline? Endline simply inserts a new line to your code. So it inserts a new line to the output and displays what is in there to the screen. Now, this double sign, this double less than sign is called an operator. It's called a output operator, right? Or called insertion operator. Let me make no mistake about it. So I'm going to write it as a comment somewhere after this line. I'm going to write this is called insertion operator. All right, so it works with the Cout object, right? Good. So this is basically it. Now let's look at another thing. Let's look at cin. Cin is used to get something from the input. Let's say you want the user to enter his name and you want to output his name after he have entered it. You can just say cin. Now, if you want to get something from the user, you invert the insertion operator, and now you have what we have is called the extraction operator. So this is extraction operator, and what you want to do is I want the user to enter his name and I want to store it in a variable called name. Now C++ wants you to actually declare a variable before you use it. What it means is that this name I'm using here, C++ wants you to say whether it's a string or an integer or a number. What do you expect the user to enter? Do you expect the user to enter a string? In this case, yes, we want the user to enter a string. A string means letters enclosed in quotes. Or let's say letters like our names, names of streets, names of places, names of countries, and stuff like that. So let's just say string name. So at this point, the error goes away. So before I do that, let me also use a Cout to say, please enter your name. So the first one, which is Cout, is going to display on the output telling the user to enter his name, and I want the name to be entered in the same line. So I'm not going to use endline because I want the name to be entered in the same line. So when cin executes, this line cin is used to get user input. So when the user enters his name or whatever he enters, it will be saved in this variable called name. So when next you go to execute cout, and when I output the name will be output in the output, right? Good. So I'm going to run this so that you see how it works. So let me right click and I will say run as local C++ application. So now it says please enter your name, and I'm going to enter my name. I enter. So it displays the name along. I'm going to take this up. So now let me make it a bit more fancy. So I'll say, let me add a message to it. Welcome. So I'll explain what is happening here. So when the user enters his name, the name is stored in name. And now I want to output welcome plus the name. So welcome plus whatever the user enters. So if the user enters his name, it will be stored in name. So when I say Cout welcome name, it will say Cout welcome, then the name of the person. So the key thing I want you to understand is how cin and Cout works. Also know when to use the end line, and also know about the insertion and extraction operator, because these are things that you may encounter in a C++ quiz in case you have the opportunity to apply for a job or something. You need to know about all of this. So I'm going to run it and let's see what happens. run as local C++ application. And then it says, please enter your name, and I enter Kindson. So you can say it says, welcome Kindson. So try to get this around your head, try to play around with C out and C in, try to understand how it works. And then we'll see in the next tutorial. I'd like to remind you to subscribe by clicking on the subscribe button below, and then we continue in the next lesson.